Hello everybody. So this video is essential for all those students who are writing the exam in January 2025 as well as May 2025. Now in this video I'm going to be talking about a small point relating to loss from house property, a small point but a significant point from the examination point of view, because ICAI has literally changed its stand when it comes to this particular concept. So listen to me, listen till the very end. This video is about that particular point regarding which a lot of students everywhere are having a confusion. So I intend to set right the confusion once and for all through this video. Now, who has to watch this video? If you've already attended the DT workout batch for January 25, you do not have to watch this video because I've already discussed this with you in class. But if you have attended any of the earlier workout batches, or if you've not attended any of the workout batches, then you should be listening to this video. Listen to me. So here I'm going to compare 115 BAC and the normal provisions from the point of view of income from house property head and loss from house property set off and carry forward chapter. Okay, listen to me. Very simple discussion only, nothing to be worried about. I'll simplify it for you. We'll discuss the provision first and then I have a couple of questions for you. We'll discuss this and with this you will be very sorted. See, listen. My assessee is having a self-occupied property, okay? In self-occupied property, in the normal regime, you can claim interest. You can claim interest under section 24. You have two limits. Generally, it is a 30,000 limit. But if you fulfill the three conditions, then you can enjoy the 2 lakhs limit. Right, guys? So, if assessee is following the normal provisions, then yes, assessee can enjoy the interest deduction under section 24, but there is a limit. Sometimes it is restricted to 30,000 and sometimes it is restricted to 2 lakh rupees. So under the normal provisions, if you see, self-occupied property normal provisions, if you see, my assessee will have 0 NAV. NAV will be nil. You will subtract deductions under section 24. Only one deduction you will have, which is interest. So 0 NAV minus interest deduction. Of course, you will either get a negative number, which means it will be a loss, or if there is no interest, your answer is going to be 0. So basically what I am trying to tell you, a very basic point, something which you definitely know, self-occupied property in normal provisions, income is impossible. It's impossible to have a positive number. Self-occupied property will either give you a negative number or it will be nil in normal regime. Right, guys? Because NAV is nil. Now, under 115 BAC, however, self-occupied property, interest is not allowed as a deduction under section 24. If you look at your entire IFHP chapter, because of section 115 BAC, there is only one single impact, and that one single impact is regarding self-occupied property. Let-out property, there is no impact because of 115 BAC. 115 BAC attacks only self-occupied property. If your assessee is following the default regime, that is, if the assessee is following section 115 BAC, then for self-occupied property, interest will not be allowed as a deduction under section 24. No interest will be allowed. So if assessee is following 115 BAC, then NAV will anyways be nil for self-occupied property. Interest will not be allowed, so interest 0. So your net answer will always be what? It will always be nil if assessee is following 115 BAC. Understanding? So till here, this part you must be clear right now, that if assessee is following the normal regime, self-occupied property will either be a loss or the answer will be nil. But if assessee is following section 115 BAC, then interest is not allowed for self-occupied property. So therefore, NAV 0, section 24 deduction 0. So the answer will always be 0 if assessee is following 115 BAC for self-occupied property. Story over. Nothing new. We already know about this. No confusion over here. No complication over here. Same like what we've learned all this while. Same thing only. Now listen, what about let-out property? Let-out property, there is no change because of 115 BAC. So whether 115 BAC, whether normal provisions, it doesn't matter. Assessee can enjoy interest deduction under section 24. Is there any limit? Do you apply the 30,000 limit or the 2 lakh limit here? No. Without any limit, whatever interest my assessee has incurred, on accrual basis, the entire interest is going to be allowed under section 24 if assessee follows 115 BAC or normal regime. It doesn't matter. If it is let-out property, entire interest is going to be allowed. Okay, no limit. In 115 BAC also, normal regime also, the stand is the same. Now in let out property, if assessee is following the normal regime, we can have an income or we can have a loss, or it can also be zero. The net number can be positive, it can be negative, or it can be zero. And I told you just now that there is no change because of 115 BAC. So answer can either be an income, it can be a positive number, or it can be loss from house property, or it can be zero. Okay, so as of now, if you see, under 115 BAC, if you have loss from house property, come on, listen, be careful. Under 115 BAC, if you have loss from house property, is it possible to have this loss from self-occupied property? No. Just now we learned self-occupied answer will always be 0. So if assessee is following 115 BAC and if he is having loss from house property, it has to be from let out property only. From self-occupied property it is not possible. But in normal regime, if assessee is having loss from house property, this loss from house property can be from self-occupied property also. It can be from let out property also. Okay. But under 115 BAC, if assessee is having loss from house property, it is only possible from let out property, because self-occupied property answer is going to be nil. Till here also no confusion, same like what we have learned earlier, no change. We've already covered all this in regular classes as well. Now look at this last part, the last provision. This is where there is a change. See, if you are following 115 BAC, if you are having loss from house property, from self-occupied property, loss is not even possible. Just now we discussed, because self-occupied answer will always be 0 only. So in 115 BAC, if you have loss from house property, it has to be from let out property only. Okay, now what will you do with the loss? What do you do with the loss? Can you do intra-head adjustment? Yes, of course. Intra-head means what? You can adjust it against income from another house property. So within the same IFHP head only, one property loss, one property income, you can set it off. Intra-head you can do. Even in normal regime, if you are having loss from house property, intra-head you can do. In normal regime, we've already spoken, it can be self-occupied loss also, it can be let out loss also. You can do intra-head adjustment. Let's finish off normal regime first. In normal regime, can you do inter-head adjustment? Like if you have loss from house property, can you adjust it against PGBP income? Like if you have loss from house property, can you adjust it against capital gains income? Yes, we can do inter-head adjustment also we can do. But here we can do maximum 2 lakh rupees only. There's a limit of 2 lakhs. The 2 lakhs limit is not for intra-head. 2 lakhs limit is only for inter-head. And if we are unable to do intra-head, unable to do inter-head, then we can carry forward to the next year also. In this case, the loss will be carried forward for totally 8 years, and generally you must have learnt you have to file ITR on time if you want to carry forward current year losses. But loss from house property, even if you file your ITR late, still you can carry forward this loss, no problem. You can carry it forward for 8 years. In these 8 years, what you can do, in these 8 years you can adjust against any income from house property. In these 8 years, if you have any IFHP, you can adjust it. Okay, this is as per the normal provisions. Here also no change, we know all of this. But if assessee is following 115 BAC, if under 115 BAC, if assessee is having loss, first of all we know it has to be from let out property only, because from self-occupied property answer will always be nil only. So if you have loss from house property in 115 BAC, you can do intra-head adjustment. Yes, of course, you have any income from house property, against it you can adjust this loss. Can you do inter-head? Inter-head is not allowed. Even this was same like what we've learned earlier, that under normal regime inter-head is allowed but maximum 2 lakhs. But under 115 BAC, inter-head is not allowed. Intra-head you can do, but you cannot adjust against other heads. Okay. But can you carry forward to the next year? This is where the whole discussion is. Earlier, we used to learn it this way. We used to say that earlier, only inter-head is not allowed, but carry forward to the next year is allowed. This is how we used to learn earlier. This is what was stated in ICAI study material as well earlier. But however, ICAI's latest stand, as they have also issued a corrigendum in this regard, they are now saying that can you carry forward this loss to the next year? They are saying no, you cannot carry forward this loss to the next year. Which means under 115 BAC, if you have loss from house property, you can only do intra-head adjustment. You cannot do inter-head adjustment. You also can't carry forward to the next year. This is where the whole change is. Earlier here we used to say yes, you can carry forward, but as per the latest clarification of ICAI, which is applicable for Jan 25 exams, can you carry forward to the next year your loss from house property? If assessee is following normal regime, then yes, you can carry forward. If assessee is following 115 BAC, then no, you cannot carry forward to the next year. Understanding, everybody? Now a question will arise. What about brought forward loss from house property? Question will arise. Let's say in 22-23 we were following the normal provisions, guys, in the last year, and in 22-23 we had loss from house property which we were not able to adjust, so we will carry it forward to the next year. Now my current year is 23-24. In this year we are following 115 BAC, the default regime, let us say. In this year I am having income from house property. Can I adjust this last year's brought forward loss against current year's income from house property? No. If assessee is following 115 BAC, you can only do intra-head adjustment of current year loss from house property. You cannot do inter-head. You cannot carry forward to the next year. You also cannot adjust brought forward losses from house property. Understanding? From last year, if you're carrying forward, if you're bringing forward loss from last year, even that you cannot adjust. And do not misread all of this. I am not saying that the same provision is applicable for all losses. No, our whole discussion is only and only regarding loss from house property. Understanding? So if your assessee is following 115 BAC, you can only do intra-head adjustment of current year loss from house property. You cannot do inter-head. You cannot carry forward to the next year. Also, last year's brought forward loss, if you are having, you cannot adjust in the current year. You can only do intra-head adjustment of current year's loss from house property. Is this clear for everybody? Yes, guys. Yes. So this is it about your provision. The change is over here. I hope you've registered this in your memory. So if assessee is following normal provisions, self-occupied property, you can claim interest. Let-out property, you can claim interest. If you have any loss, you can do intra-head adjustment. You can do inter-head adjustment, maximum 2 lakhs. You can carry forward to the next year. Totally for 8 years, you can carry forward. Even if assessee files ITR late, you can carry forward. All of this is for normal regime. But if assessee is following 115 BAC, self-occupied property, interest is not allowed. Let-out property, interest you can claim. If you have loss from house property, it is possible only from let-out property. That loss you can do intra-head adjustment? Yes. Can you do inter-head adjustment? No. Can you carry forward to the next year? No. Can you adjust earlier years brought forward losses in the current year? You cannot. You cannot do it. You can only adjust intra-head current year loss from house property. Okay, now let's see whether we have actually understood this properly or not. I have 6 questions for you. Let's have a look at these 6 questions one by one. If you're able to answer these 6 questions correctly, confidently you can close this video thinking that you've understood everything perfectly well. Listen to me. Look at the very first question over here. In the first question, what happened is I have 2 houses, house 1 and house 2. House 1 I earned income, house 2 I have lost from house property. Now, can my assessee do if my assessee is adjusting house 2 loss from house property against house 1 income from house property, if assessee is adjusting this, is it intra-head adjustment or is it inter-head adjustment? Obviously, this is going to be intra-head, guys, because you're adjusting within the same head, 1 house loss, 1 house income, you're adjusting. This is definitely intra-head adjustment. Can you do this intra-head under normal provisions? Yes. Can you do intra-head under 115 BAC? Yes. Is there any limit that how much you can do, how much you can adjust? Is there any limit for this? There is no limit. Whatever is your loss from house property, intra-head adjustment you can do. Intra-head is allowed under both the regimes, no problem in that. Then comes my second question. In the second question, I have loss from house property and I have other heads income. Can I adjust my loss from house property against income from other heads? Can I do this adjustment? What is this adjustment called first of all? Is it intra-head or is it inter-head? Definitely I'm adjusting loss from house property against other heads. So definitely this is inter-head, guys. Is this interhead allowed under the normal regime? Yes, under normal regime you can do intrahead also, you can do interhead also, you can carry forward also. So under normal regime, can you do interhead? Yes, you can do. But can you do interhead adjustment under 115 BAC? No, you cannot. You can do interhead adjustment only under the normal regime, and maximum how much you can do, guys? Maximum only 2 lakh rupees you can do. Right, guys? So under normal regime you can do interhead, but maximum 2 lakh rupees only you can adjust. What about the balance? Balance you'll have to carry forward to the next year. Okay, what about 115 BAC? Only intrahead you can do. If intrahead is not possible, you cannot do interhead, you cannot carry forward to the next year, then what will happen to the loss? That's all, dustbin. The loss will lapse. Nothing else to do. Ignore, over, story over for that loss. Okay, now listen to the third question, everybody. In the third situation, in 23-24, my assessee has lost some house property. Assessee tried intrahead, was not able to adjust. Assessee tried interhead, was not able to adjust. So assessee wants to carry it forward to the next year. Okay, can assessee do this carry forward under the normal regime? Yes, normal regime, full freedom. You can do intrahead, you can do interhead up to 2 lakh. You can carry forward the balance loss also, no problem. But under 115 BAC, can you carry forward, guys? No, you cannot carry forward. Under 115 BAC, if you are not able to do intrahead adjustment of loss from house property, that's all, that loss will lapse, because interhead is not possible, carry forward is also not possible. So under 115 BAC, can you carry forward? No, you cannot carry forward. But under the normal regime, yes, you can carry forward. Is there any limit on the amount? There is no limit on the amount, but there is a limit on the number of years. You can carry it forward only for 8 years, but even if assessee has filed ITR late, you can still carry it forward to the next year. Okay, everybody, this was question number 3. Now comes question number 4. In the fourth situation, what happens is, my assessee is having a loss from house property in 23-24. Assessee tried intrahead, not possible. Tried interhead, not possible. So assessee wants to carry it forward to the next year. Okay, next year assessee wants to adjust it against PGBP. Is this possible? This is going to be impossible. Assessee, whether you're following 115 BAC, whether you're following normal regime, whenever you carry forward any loss, you have to stay within the same head. Like last year, if you have business loss unadjusted, last year's business loss, if you're carrying forward to the next year, you can adjust it only against PGBP. Right, guys? Last year's loss from house property, if you're carrying forward to the current year, you can adjust it only against IFHP. Last year's loss, can you adjust against other heads? Last year's loss, if you're carrying forward to the current year, can you do interhead adjustment? That is impossible. Whether normal provisions, whether default provisions, interhead adjustment of carry forward losses is impossible. So loss from house property, you can adjust against only income from house property, and that too only under normal regime. If it is 115 BAC, you are not allowed to do brought forward adjustment. That point will anyways be coming once again in question 6 as well. So question number 4, the point is, if you have unabsorbed loss from house property, you can adjust against, you can carry it forward to the next year only under normal regime. Under 115 BAC, you cannot even carry forward. But when you carry forward under the normal regime, when you carry forward, can you adjust in the next year against PGBP? That's not possible. Whenever you carry forward losses, if carry forward is allowed, next year you have to stay within the same head only. Okay, then listen to question number 5. In my fifth situation, my assessee is having current year loss from house property, and my assessee has filed ITR late. Assessee has filed ITR late. Can assessee do intra-head adjustment under 115 BAC? Yes. Under 115 BAC, you can do intra-head. You cannot do inter-head. You cannot carry forward the current year loss. If you are not able to do intra-head, the loss will simply lapse. Inter-head is not allowed. Carry forward is not allowed. Okay. Why is carry forward not allowed? Is it because ITR is filed late? Is that the reason? No, carry forward is not allowed because 115 BAC loss from house property, only intra-head is allowed. So whether ITR is filed late or not, that is not even relevant for my discussion. 115 BAC, any case, only intra-head loss from house property adjustment is allowed. Inter-head and carry forward is not allowed. Then what if your assessee is following normal provisions? Can you do intra-head? Yes. Can you do inter-head? Yes, but inter-head you can do maximum only 2 lakhs. If you still have any loss left, can you carry forward to the next year? Yes. Even though assessee has filed ITR late, still assessee can carry it forward to the next year. Totally you can carry it forward for 8 years. But when you carry forward, next year you can adjust against which income? Next year you can adjust only against IFHP. You cannot adjust against other heads in the next year. If you carry forward to the next year you got to stay within the same head only. Okay, this was my situation 5. Now come to the last situation. This situation, you have a similar question on this situation even in the Jan 2025 RTP. The situation says in 22-23, preceding previous year, my assessee was following normal regime. So in normal regime, so you can do intra-head also, inter-head also, you can carry forward also. So you carried forward loss from house property to the next year. In 22-23, you had loss from house property. You were not able to do intra-head, you were not able to do inter-head. So you decided to carry forward to the next year. Okay. Now current year 23-24, my assessee is following 115 BAC. And my assessee is having income from house property. So in this year, can we adjust the brought forward loss from house property of the last year? Can we do this adjustment? Last year we had loss from house property which we are carrying forward. So current year we are having income from house property. Can we adjust it? The answer is no, we cannot. Why? Because current year assessee is following 115 BAC. If assessee is following 115 BAC in the current year, you can only do intra-head adjustment of current year loss from house property. You cannot do inter-head. You cannot carry forward to the next year. You also cannot adjust brought forward loss from house property. You can only do intra-head adjustment of current year loss from house property. Earlier years brought forward losses also you cannot adjust. But if assessee was following the normal provisions in 23-24, then of course this adjustment would be allowed. But if assessee is following 115 BAC, then earlier years brought forward loss from house property is not allowed. So to simply conclude, the entire discussion, one simple summary I'll give you. First column, what if assessee is following 115 BAC? Second column, what if assessee is following the normal regime? Can my assessee do intra-head adjustment of loss from house property? Yes, under both without any limit. Can assessee do inter-head adjustment of loss from house property under 115 BAC? No. Under normal regime, yes, but maximum only 2 lakhs. Can my assessee carry forward the losses to the next year under 115 BAC? No. Under normal regime, yes, but for maximum 8 years, and subsequent years if you are adjusting, you have to adjust only against income from house property. Even if you filed ITR late, you can still carry forward. Can you adjust brought forward loss from house property under 115 BAC? No. Under normal regime, yes. This table summarizes my entire 20 minutes video. All clear? Yes guys, let me know in the comment section if this video is entirely clear for you. If you have any doubt, do not hesitate, comment below and I'll resolve the doubt for you. Alright, so with this I think we're good to close this session. Thank you, bye-bye.